you. Sorry about that. I'm sharing my phone. Thank you very much. Forward to the code. Continue. Hi everybody. Like I mentioned, this event will be live streamed and will also be recorded today. My name is Jessica Blessing Woluka. I'm a manager for the Tech Talent Accelerator. I'm also a research project manager for the Science Research Innovation Office. Thank you so much for being here today. As I mentioned previously, please, as part of the housekeeping rules, I would ask for you to please mute your mics and also turn off your videos, please. For questions, please, I would ask for you to use the Zoom chat function, and we will begin shortly. I'd like to begin with our land acknowledgements today. Toronto is the district one spoon territory. The District One Spoon Territory is a treaty between the Anishinaabes, the Mississaugas, and the Hondoshonones that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. Just as an icebreaker today, I would like to start with what program are you in and what year are you in? So using the chat function, could you also just put it in? What year are you in? What program are you in? I'm very curious to see what type of participants have come in today. So using the chat function, could you let me know what program are you in? What year are you in? What program are you in? What year are you in? I'm really curious to see who is in attendance today. Okay, politics year two, fourth year business management, third year biomed students from TMU. Okay, year six PhD biological. Okay. First year nutrition communication program. Really exciting. Neuroscience PhD candidate at McGill. Thank you so much for being here today. Really excited. Okay. Thank you so much for being here today. We're really excited. Fourth year PhD electrical and computer engineering. I'm so excited that all of you are all here being today. This is such an interesting topic, and I'm sure each and every one of you would pick something tangible that you would use that'll be so beneficial to your career path, your day-to-day communication skills. Thank you so much for being here today. So for our agenda today, I know we're just using this spirit to talk about our agenda. So right now we're doing our welcome speech. I'm gonna hand off to our guest speaker shortly. And by 12:45, we're gonna open it up to our question and answer section. And by 1 o'clock, we should be concluding this event. So I'm really excited to welcome my guest speaker here today. Angela is our guest speaker. Angela Podolsky is a behavior analyst, and she's also a corporate trainer and founder of Kinetics.com. Angela is also an award-winning entrepreneur, public speaker, and a corporate trainer at Kinetics.com. This consulting firm helps businesses achieve their full potential by mastering the art of language and non-verbal communication. Angela is passionate about building businesses and helping leaders develop themselves and acquire skills they need to succeed. She's an advisor to several small and mid-sized businesses across various industries. In recognition of Angela's business acumen and community influence, she was awarded the 2017 Entrepreneur of the Year award by the Jewish Chamber of Commerce, nominated for the Women of Influence 2021 by RBC and the Education 2.0 Leadership Award 2022 in Dubai. Without further ado, please give me a warm welcome to Angela Podolsky. Please, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Thank you for the warm introduction as well. I see we have a few things happening in the chat. And the chat, I see people cannot message everybody and they can message some people directly. So the people that are the host, which is I'm one of them. So what I would like to do is everybody put your messaging on my name right now. Put the messaging on my name. That way you'll be able to directly message me so I can see your messaging. And tell me, why did you decide to join it? Let me understand where are you coming from, not in a location, but in the sense of what are the messages you want me to provide you with? What are you looking for to learn from today's presentation? What intrigued you to join? So let's take 2 seconds. Tell me in my chat, what is that brings you today to this seminar? Great, thank you. So I have, I'll be graduating soon, and I think these soft skills. I'm also a public speaker looking to enhance my speaking with the body language communication. I am learning more about transitioning from academia to industry, nonverbal communication on Zoom, trying to be an entrepreneur. I'm graduating students at McGill. Welcome, McGill, doing research on nonverbal communication. Wow, that's interesting. Definitely connect with me. I'm curious, what research are you trying to do? To communicate with various teams members. Do you get us? I understand you're already working, consulting that specialize in economics development to improve my public speaking. Great, 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 great. Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. I am excited to see you here. We're a little bit getting tight here on the time, but nevertheless, let's get started. I'm going to share the screen. Going to share the screen, and I'm going to try to keep the chat next to me as well. That way, if I have a message, I can try seeing it. Okay. I'm going to multitask here. So that's what's happening in the technology area. Sometimes you need to multitask, and that's okay. Okay, perfect. So welcome everybody. My name is Angela Podolsky. As you heard, I'm a behavior analyst specializing in nonverbal communication. I'm fortunate to be working with top companies in Canada and outside of Canada. I'm passionate in helping entrepreneurs as well, being involved in judging Startup Festival and others, and giving back to the community through teaching in some universities and mentoring as well. Okay, now, why nonverbal communication and what is our methodology, the way we work? The way we work is we breaking things down into 3 areas. I want you also to think for a second. I'm just going to take a step back because we are short a little bit on time because we started a bit late. I will be speaking a little bit faster than usual. So all the people there trying to learn public speaking, this is maybe not the best thing. But I would love to try to give you all the information I have here prepared for you. Therefore, I'll go into speaking a little bit faster than usual. And if it's too fast, please send me a message saying, Angela, slow down, because I'm sure we have people that are coming internationally to this course. Okay, so back to this session. Well, in Kinesics, we're breaking our sessions into 3. Why are we doing that? Because we need to understand not just how to read others, but also understand ourselves. So the first part in our methodology is understanding self. When understanding self is understanding your own internal self and what's happening in there. The second part is understanding self to others. That's external. It's the messages you are giving to others. What are they saying? What are the verbal and nonverbal that you are giving to others? Again, it's on you still, when the you part. And only the third part is others to me. It's how to read others. Why is it like this? Why do we need to understand ourselves before reading others? Well, the reason for that is because if you don't understand your own self, what happens is, even if you're reading something, number one, you don't know what to do about it because you don't have the tools within you to address it. Number two is you may be the one contaminating that reading without even knowing that. So therefore, the methodology is broken in 3 parts. When you get to the part of reading others, you'll have the tools and understanding what's going on within yourself and what are the things that you can do to make sure that your reading is correct, as well that you can address it properly. Does that make sense? Always write in the chat to me. Okay. Why is it kinesics? So kinesics is a word in the dictionary which stands for nonverbal communication. So kinesics is the study in which a certain body movements and gestures serve as a form of nonverbal communication. So you can say body language, which is just the body. You can say nonverbal communication, but you also can say kinesics. So if you're trying to Google nonverbal communication, you can also Google what is kinesics. Now, how long have we been studying this? How long have been researching this? Well, some people think it's new and now it's hip and it's cool. We see it on the TV when you have behavior analysts like myself analyzing people that in the politics, people in Hollywood. Now it's really mainstream. But actually, it has been done for many, many years before. We had somebody like Charles Darwin that studied emotions in animals, and then he started to relate what does that mean into humans. And then almost 100 years ago, a little bit less, but about 80 years ago, we have Paul Ekman that also continued studying, kind of took over what Charles Darwin was doing in his work and studied emotions in humans. And then he figured out there's emotions and they're showing up in our face, and there's a certain muscles and a certain way of emotions function. And he continued studying that. And how many of you have seen the TV show Lie to Me? I want to see that in the chat. How many of you are fans of the TV show Lie to Me? Because TV show Lie to Me is actually a fun TV show, but we have to keep in mind that it's Hollywood. It's not real. It is based on the science of Paul Ekman. Oh, we have here a few lovers. I see exclamation marks. So it is based on the science of Paul Ekman. Paul Ekman was part of that TV show as an advisor in the beginning, but after that, he stepped away because it became a bit too Hollywoody and not real enough. So it is based on real science. Having said that, you cannot look at somebody and say, oh, you blink, that means that you're lying. So be careful when you watch it. It is entertaining, enjoying it, but keep in mind, it is Hollywood. Now, what are my objectives for today? My objectives to today is to try to address as much as we can in the short time we have and answer the questions you may have in the end, as well to provide you with some tools and tricks that you can start applying right away and be able to understand communication in a little bit of a broader area. As we said in our introduction, we study in school how to write, how to read, how to talk, but we don't really understand the depth of communication. And hopefully by the end of today, you will have a broader, bigger area of understanding and a deeper area of understanding of communication in general. And again, you can always write to me if you have any questions or you agree or you disagree. I really love when things are interactive. So feel free to write to me even when you have different thoughts coming through your head or you're like, yes, I'm meant to that. Thumbs up, thumbs down, all goes. Just keep writing. So that way I know you're here and you're with me. Now, we talked about the methodology that is broken down in 3, and therefore today we'll dive in a little bit, or really just the tip of the iceberg for each one of them so you can understand what does that mean and how is it broken down. So we'll start with self. as understanding your own self. And what does that mean? So to start understanding your own self, you need to understand that at a basic level, and know we have MDs here and people that in science, and they know that it's more complicated than that. It's not black and white, but I'll keep it very simple. We have the left and the right of brain, the analytical, the emotional side of the brain, and everything around it. And when we communicate sometimes on almost two tracks. We have the analytical side and the emotional side. And the thing is, often we see incongruency when you have the analytical side and you have the emotional side, and they communicate two different messages. And the most important thing to understand in communication, that everything you're feeling will show up on your nonverbal communication. Therefore, to be able to be congruent, to be able to give the correct messaging, the right messaging, to come across the right way, people that, let's say, going into entrepreneurship, sale, or public speaking, you actually have to not just connect your analytical, the verbal side, but you also have to connect your emotions, because otherwise there's no congruency. And then when there's no congruency, the messaging will be incongruent. So behavior analysts like myself, when we, let's say, investigate and look into things, we look for those specific incongruencies. And when people sit in front of you and listen to you, they consciously and subconsciously, depending on their training, depending on their intuition, will be picking up those messages. And guess what? We've all been picking up on those messages. We all have somebody that we met or family member that tells you, yeah, I'm confident. And their body says, nah, maybe not that confident, but in their voice, they're saying confident, right? Or we have a call with somebody and you say, are you sure about that? And they're like, I'm sure about that. And you hear the pitch changes. And that's what we're hearing. We're hearing that incongruency of the thinking and the feeling. When the feeling and the thinking does not work and sing and dance on the same track, we will see that in our nonverbal communication. Therefore, when we're looking into ourselves, when we want to go to a job interview, when we want to do an event, a speaking engagement, anything else, a sales, anything, what we need to look in is to sit down and say, okay, how am I feeling right now? Am I feeling the way I'm thinking? Or is it different? And the best way to start that is to actually start communicating on those two tracks, meaning is to say, I feel this way, and then to say at the same time, I think this way. So if somebody asks you, would you be interested in doing that? You may say, I think I will be interested. My brain saying I will be interested. And then you say, I feel that may not work for me. But your gut feeling, your intuition, your feeling may say otherwise. Or it may say the same, which will be on the same track. Therefore, you have to always ask yourself if you are congruent and if you're communicating in that way as well. So congruency is working in harmony together, both channels, the analytical and not analytical. Now, we also want to go into the next part, me to others, the messages you are giving to others. So we quickly looked at ourselves. What does that mean? What is happening inside of me? But let's look, what are we also communicating? I want you to write in the chat to me, how many of you believe that a lack of eye contact means somebody is not trustworthy or they're not confident? How many of you were raised by saying you need to look me in the eye when I'm talking to you? We have yes, we have no's. Some people say I agree. Some people raise like that. So we have somebody saying, yes, I feel strong eye contact is important. Somebody else says, not to me. Well, that's the thing. And that's by also understanding the messages that happening is what are you believing? So when you're communicating to others, the messages you're giving, when you're creating eye contact or not creating eye contact, we have two thoughts. One, we say, oh, creating eye contact is important. On the other hand, we say creating eye contact is not that important. And that's culture specific. Having said that, we need to understand when we're communicating to others. So now we're talking about self to others, the messages we're giving to others. We need to understand where the others are coming from or what culture am I in? I am in a culture that is surrounded by the thought of creating eye contact means confident. Creating eye contact means that you respect somebody, or you're with a culture. Let's say you travel somewhere else to your culture that actually creating eye contact is a disrespect. So you need to understand what are the messages you're giving, and not by when you're giving the messages, not from your perspective, but in the perspective of where are you at? So there are two sides to it. One is the messages I'm giving that I know, and there's the messages I'm giving, where am I at? And then what are the messages I should be giving? And that's where we have the biases. What's a bias? A strong belief in the favor or against one group of people or one side in an argument, often based on fair judgment. And what does that mean, fair judgment? All it means is that you need to understand where is it the other person is from, not just from your own judgment and understanding, I'm coming from here. I believe that eye contact means that there's no confidence, versus the other group saying, oh, no, that's the opposite. We have the same situation happening with cross hands. How many people learned or thought about that cross hands means reserved? Write to me in the chat. Here we have, yes, I learned that, agreed. Somebody said sometimes. Yes, let me ask you, when you see somebody crossing their hands, you're having a conversation with your friend or family member, they cross their hands, do you feel they're reserved? I think they have a guard. Cross arms are a sign of closed body language. So yeah, we have been taught it is. We have been taught it's not proper. That's cross arms is the best example I've been giving for many years, and it's the best example to showcase exactly that. So cross arms, we have learned that means reserved, disconnected, not interested, disengaged. But cross arm does not mean that. Cross arms does not mean that. Cross arms can mean many different things. Cross arms can mean I'm cold. I didn't grow up in this country. And we in Canada, we have a lot of people coming from a lot warmer climates to Canada. So most of the year, they will be like that. I'm one of them. Therefore, cross arms can be cold. Cross arms can be soothing. Cross arms can be a power pose, which is completely opposite. Therefore, cross arms can mean a lot of things. But when we're communicating about self to others, if we, as we saw in the chat, or in this case, I saw in the chat, majority of you grew up in an environment where cross arms, where cross arms being perceived as reserved, then you should be the one not doing it, because when you're communicating to somebody else, they perceive it. You're in an environment where they perceive it as reserved. Therefore, you can try opening your arms. But if you're on the other side of trying to read somebody and you say, oh, every time I see a crossed arms, it means reserve, then you have to be very, very careful, because crossed arms does not mean reserve. A lot of times, crossed arms can also, sometimes leaning back and crossed arms can be that somebody is sitting back and taking in what you're saying, and they're just reflecting. But they're a way to come in and self-hug, to be able to reflect, and they bringing themselves into their bubble, so they're not distracted by everything else, and they're just reflecting. So they kind of, yes. So that way you understand you actually got them. So instead of thinking that, oh, they're not interested anymore, they actually more interested. You have to understand that there are many sides to it. And body language is one of those things, specifically body language, is not universal. There's a lot of things involved in it that you need to understand before you start reading others. And that's one example of it. So now we have a few people that said in the comments that they are ready to go into the workforce. And people, especially today, they don't hire skills. They hire for who you are, your attitude, your personality, and then they can teach you the skills, especially when we look at the environment where there are a lot of people looking for people. So therefore, they tend to hire more and more and more, not from your CV, but actually from your personality. And how do you communicate personality? Through your channels of communication. So let's take a look. What does that mean, channels of communication? We have at least 6 channels of communication. One is our body, which is basically more or less neck down. One is our face. One is our voice, the musicality in our voice, the ups and downs, how fast, how slow, how musical it is. Then we have verbal style. The style, think about it as we all have a style in clothing. We all have a style in how we dress. Are we putting a suit? Are we putting, sometimes even you have 2 people wear black and white, but one is wearing black and white one way, another wear black and white a different way. We all have our styles of clothing. We as well have a style of conversing. And verbal content are the words we're using, and then psychophysiology. And that's how, let's say, a color of our face changes when there's a fight or flight. Do we get hot and do we perspire? Does our arms get sweat? That's when we feel a certain way. How does it show up on our channels of communication? So we all communicating all the time through all of those channels. We always giving information, and we always receiving information. Now, my question in the chat for you, what are the channels that are you feel that you communicate the most from? Okay, somebody said body and face, verbal content. I try to prepare what I say, voice, body, face, voice, verbal content. Nice. Okay, that's the channels you're giving messages. That's you giving information. But we also have receiving information, which is reading others. So I can be giving information through my body, for an example, highly animated, but reading more through voice. For example, people that read through voice, they will say sentences like, oh, their intonation changed when I said that. People that listening to the body, they will say, oh, their hand changed, or they turned their shoulders around. People that listen to verbal content may say, oh, they used a different word than usual, or they said it differently this time verbally. What are the channels you're usually listening to? Great. And sometimes it's the same and sometimes it's different. And what's important to understand is we all have biases towards one or other channel. So when we try to communicate, we want to make sure that we try to communicate not on one track, but try to communicate at least on 5 tracks. So obviously psychophysiology is a little bit hard to communicate unless a big impact happens, then it automatically takes over. It's not something you can always control, but at least try communicating your messaging, the same message. If you're saying you're excited, you're showing you're excited, you're showing you're excited in your face, you're feeling it inside, and you're saying it verbally as well. So all channels, back to the first point, working in harmony together. And when we're talking about reading others, when you understand that reading others is more complex than just reading one channel, for example, somebody turned their way, somebody crossed hands, somebody looked, let's say, to the left, or there's a million other things that out there. They say if one gesture means this and another gesture means that. We now need to look and understand that actually we cannot do that. We have 6 channels of communication, and they all communicating. And therefore, when you're trying to read somebody else, you need to take account all channels of communication. And we train that in our courses, but today I'm just giving you an overview to start thinking that way, to start thinking of like, okay, what am I saying? What are the channels of communication I'm giving, and what are the channels of communication I'm receiving, and being aware of like, what am I listening to? Even practicing by turning off your, let's say, volume on the TV, or actually keeping the volume and turning off the image, and practicing those skills. Now, somebody asked me, what about Zoom? What's the difference between a connection face-to-face versus video calls? Well, I would say number one, if you can, avoid the backdrop. Why? Because today, more than ever, is the best way to connect with individuals. When you're able to share with them what you have in your own habitat, you can have deeper conversation. I train sales executives, and I tell them, before you had to go to a coffee shop and spend hours with them in a neutral place, and it takes time and a lot of small talk to get to know people on the most personal level. Well, here you're in their habitat, you're in their homes. You can right away see their kids, you can see their pictures, you can see if there's somebody I know, they had a band behind them, they had like drums and guitars, and you can have those conversations, and it will take that connections further. And talking about others, but you can do it with yourself. What are the messages you are giving behind you when you're sitting? If you have a job interview, what are you putting there? Is there a picture of something that can tell a certain story? Does it look good? Are you representing your own brand? Maybe a company brand or your own brand. Therefore, if you can, not everybody can, but it would be great if you don't have the green screen and you do more of a natural type of look. And sometimes it just means turning around the table instead of the table. And let's say you have a bed there, You can just turn the table around and there will be a wall behind you and you'll be facing the bed. And that's good enough. And I know a lot of people in the condo, and a lot of my clients, that's what they did. They just turned the table around and they no longer need the green screen. So be aware of the data you are giving, and be aware, okay, what are the channels of communication? Now, when I'm doing Zoom versus face-to-face, a lot of people say, oh, Angela, there's no more body language. There's no more nonverbal communication. Well, that's not true. That's not true at all. There's still nonverbal communication from all those 6 channels. We have the face, we have the intonation, we have somewhat of the body. But the question is, what are you giving? What data, how much of those channels of communication you're giving when speaking to other? Are you sitting like close to the screen and they barely can see any of your body? Because it's important. And why is it important? Because we always look for data points. We always need to understand, is that a friend or an enemy? And the more data we are giving, and it's all about the data, the more data we're giving, the more people right away can be a little bit more at ease and then say, okay, I see their hands. They don't have weapons in their hands. I see their body. I can see more of their environment. I can be more relaxed. Consciously and subconsciously, that's what happens. Because if we don't see that, it takes us longer time to process things and then figure out, okay, is that a friend or an enemy? And I know we don't do that black and white anymore, but our brain's still a little bit wired in that old school, and we always do those deduct reasoning. And keep admitting people to this presentation. I don't know if everybody else as a host can see it, but I'll keep admitting them. Okay. Now, does that make sense for you? Please write in the chat, where are you at? How do you feel? Does that make sense? As you're doing that, let's talk about what we should show. Well, we should show, first of all, when we on screen or off screen, it's very important, do we show our palms of our hands or are we pointing? There are a lot of studies out there that shows how much people retain information between those 3. When people were pointing, the information is not the information is not observed as the same as when people showing the open palm of the hand, which is more welcoming. When we're talking to somebody else, try to show the palms of your hands, even when you do public speaking. Try not to hide your hands when you, even on a Zoom. As you see, I bring my hands up, I put them down, I show it, and I always try to keep my palms on so you can see them. As when centering can be face-to-face, but can be also on Zoom. When I had a conversation the other day with somebody, and they had one computer here and another computer on the side. And the camera was on the computer on the side, but they saw me on this computer. And I'm sitting and having a conversation with them, and I see it, their cheek. So I see them like this all the time. And that doesn't work because I want to have a conversation with that person, but that person has one camera on the side and not the camera where he's actually speaking with me. And we want to be aware that we are centering. Even if my camera is here, I'm not sitting like this with you because I may be looking at you, but my center is pointing away, and it's not necessarily in my feet. Here it says in my feet, but in the camera, we mainly see our core. So therefore, even if you're on camera, try to center, even if the person is not physically there. And I know it's much harder. Like now I'm trying to talk and I'm talking almost to myself, it feels like, because you don't see anybody else. So it's much harder on camera. You kind of get distracted, but you want to try to keep your center facing the camera, facing the people that you know are there behind the screen, and not sit like this. Because even if I had a presentation, I was talking to you and I've been talking to you like that, you would not like me. And if I would say, well, listen, this needs to be done and this needs to be done, this needs to be, you also would not like me because I'm pointing at you a lot. But if I turn around and I show you my palms, does that make a difference? Right? And we want to be aware of that. And then one last thing I will finish is this positioning of the centering, where our hands should be. Well, when we stand, we have this ball that we create. Think about that you have a basketball ball and it's big, and then it can contract and it opens and it can contract. So when you stand, you want to make sure when you do public speaking or other, you have job interviews, this is a good pose to come back to. You can open your hands and you can do the same thing on Zoom. You can talk and you can come back to this position, and you can talk and you can come back to this position. A good practice I tell my clients to do is to sit back, put your hands on the side, okay? You can all do it with me. Try. I know I cannot see you, but you can still try. So you sit like this, and then you can go right hand. You talk with your right hand, okay? And you put it down. Talk with your left hand, and you bring it down. And then you say, you, me, ours, right? You can do it with the right and you can do it with the left. You, me, you, ours. And then it's always with the palms. Do you see? It's not you, me, you, me. Do you see the difference? If I sit, I say me, you, me, versus you, me. It makes a big difference. And then using this, you can sit back and just keep your hands back to here, and then open it up and bring it back here, and open it up and bring it back here, put it down. So bring it up, right, left, together, put it down. And you can just learn to practice to use your hand in a way where your hands convey the same message as you're speaking. As you see, my hands are working on the same track as my words. And there's others to me, which is how to read others. And on how to read others, I kind of mentioned that before. You really have to understand, first and foremost, understanding the different channels of communication and how important it is to be able to read others. It is very important. Having said that, be able to read and understand yourself first is a lot more important, because if you don't understand your own self, you may be sabotaging that reading. You may not understand what are you doing that makes that person not engaged, not interested, but you're also not necessarily knowing what to do after that to correct that and bring those people in. So therefore, reading others is important, but reading yourself and understanding yourself is much more important. In reading others, the nonverbal communication in general, a lot of it is not universal. A lot of it is very context specific, very culture specific, very context global and environmental specific. But there's one thing we know from science that is the micro expressions, the facial expressions, which Paul Ekman researched about. And this is an example of it. So there are certain muscles in the face that move when we create a certain, when we feel a certain emotions. This is an example of it. And we teach that in a more advanced classes. But those are universal. Doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter what background you have, what culture you have, there are universals, and those you can learn, and that will help you be able to read others much better. On that end, we are really pressed on time. I'm going to finish. And so thank you very much. And as well, be aware, you can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn as well. If you want to know more information, and you want me to send you when we launch something, or we write an article, or we are launching a podcast as well in a little bit, in a few months. If you want to know more, just write to me your email address and I'll make sure to add you. And on that note, thank you very much. Jessica?
Thank you so much, Angela. Thank you so much, everyone. Please just join me to just say a warm thank you to Angela today. Thank you so much, Angela, for taking the time to be with us here today. Honestly, I learned a lot. Let me start with what I learned today. Moving backwards, hands, palms out, left, right. One thing I learned and I'm gonna take away today is be aware of the data you're giving away. And I would definitely put that at the back of my mind today. So I really want to say thank you so much, Angela. I'm sure each and every one of us definitely learned so much here today. I know I did. I know everyone here did. So please, everyone, please, let's all say thank you so much to Angela. If you have any questions here today, please use the chat function. I know we do have 7 minutes left. I'm using chat function. I know Angela has access to it. So please, I would like for you to ask any questions you might have. We still have 7 minutes. Please ask your questions, whatever you might have. Ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. Thank you very much. I'm monitoring the chat. You can unmute your mic if you prefer to talk.
There's a few questions here I can address.
Okay.
So somebody asked me, what is the Instagram account? Is Angela Podolsky. Because of how the chat is set up, I'm not able to share the links. Therefore, if you write your email address, I would send it to you after. But yes, Angela Podolsky on Instagram, and on if you on YouTube and other stuff, you just try to look for me by my name. It's the easiest way. Another question was asked was, can you change here? Big question. Is it possible to train yourself to give out less emotions when you're speaking? One of the issues that I have is that I think that my emotions are easily read in most situations. And he says, or he or she says specifically about job interviews. Well, you cannot change your emotions. Your emotions are there. You can rethink about the situations, will change how your emotions, how you physically and emotionally react to it. You can train yourself to reduce the impact. So, for an example, if you're really nervous in a job interview, you can rethink about what does that mean to go to that job interview. 2 is you can retrain yourself. For example, when you practice a lot, or you coach yourself, what are the right things to do, what to say, or how to even say that you're nervous, which is actually not a bad thing. I always say you can actually mention that because it's a positive instead of keeping it inside. I always say, set the truth free. And that will help you, because the more we keep it inside, the worse it is. So we don't want to ever keep it inside. We want to address it in a good manner. So you cannot change your emotions, but you can work with your emotions to help you achieve your results. I hope that kind of answered your question.
Angela, I do have a question for you myself. So I know we've taken some different classes when it comes to being charismatic and with communication as well. And people have different opinions about that and communication styles. And someone I know, a professor, talked about it being too confusing. So I know you mentioned the left and the right, the me, you, are. So what will you say about it not being confusing? Do you have any thought or opinion about that? Like, what do you think
Confusing.
about it?
What do you mean by confusing?
So it's being too distracting. You know, when you're having an interview and you are doing a lot of the hand movement and it becomes distracting for the person that you are interacting with.
Right.
So what do you think about that?
Right. The only way it will be distracting if it's not working on the same track.
Okay.
But when you communicating and your hands are just going everywhere, it is distracting because it's not saying the same message.
Okay.
If it is saying the same message, then it should not be distracting. If I'm just illustrating what I'm saying, so what I'm saying, I really care, I think this is what it is, then it's not distracting. All I'm doing, I'm painting a picture of what am I also saying. But if I'm painting a picture of everything I'm saying and my hands are keep going like this, then it is distracting. And your brain is saying, oh my God, do I listen to the video that I have playing? The video is basically your hands, your animation. Am I listening to the video or am I listening to the voice? What am I listening? So your brain cannot process it. It's a little bit too much. So yes, it can be distracted. But if you tell the brain the same, it's like a video on a great commercial. When the commercial is saying when we are driving to the beach and you have somebody driving and to the beach, it's painting the same picture. But if you say the person saying I'm driving to the beach, but the picture is flying somewhere else, you get very distracted. That's number one. Number two is, are you coming from a highly animated culture and that person is coming from a not animated culture at all? Therefore, you want to make sure that, I call it scaling up and scaling down. Make sure you can communicate closer because you understanding yourself, right? And the messages you're giving, you say, oh, okay, I understand myself. I can see that person. Maybe if I'm too animated, that's what will scare them. It doesn't mean I'm not myself. I'm just going to, I say it, meet them where they're at. And then slowly you'll become more and more yourself, right? Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much, Angela. I really appreciate it. Thank you. So we are exactly at 1 o'clock. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. We really appreciate it for continuously taking the time to be here, always attending our event. We also have an upcoming event happening October 5th. We have top RBC executive coming for the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So please RSVP. We have it on the chat box. So if you've not RSVP for the event, please RSVP for the event. Once again, thank you so much, Angela. Thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much to all our guests that attended today. We really appreciate each and every one of you here today. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day. The weather is somewhat amazing today. So take a walk, drink tea, drink coffee, whatever you enjoy. Have a great rest of the day. And thank you. Have a good day.
Bye. Thank you very much for having us.